everybody. Welcome to another episode of Picture Shows and Petticoats. It's Elizabeth again, and I have my friend Ollie here with me.
Hello.
I'm so glad you're back.
Chatty Patty back.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
So I thought that I was gonna be, talking about all of this with Misty, but new babies are new babies.
Yes, they are.
And
they don't follow a pattern or a guideline. They just get up when they want to, sleep when they want to. They just do what they want to do.
Yeah. So, but I do appreciate you being here to talk with me.
Not a problem. I'm here for you.
I'm going to try to talk a little bit softer this week. Okay, so I was telling Ollie before we started that I may be having a small mic problem.
You sound fine to me.
Yeah, but I think that it was broken last week too. So,
well, that might explain why once or twice I heard you like cut in and out. I was like, huh?
Yeah. So. I think that Claire the dog got a hold of my. I'm going to back away from this thing a little bit. Okay, maybe that'll be better. We'll see. So I'm sorry if I'm too loud. I'm going to try to talk quieter.
I'm sure you'll be fine.
Oh, look, I can change my levels. Okay, this is so professional. Anyway, we've got an episode to talk about.
Yes. Episode. Well, okay. Why do they call it 106? Is it 106?
It's just 106. That's just how they do these things.
Why don't they just call it 6?
It's season 1, episode 6.
Kind of like when you start a checking account. Nobody wants to do 0001, so we start at 100.
I guess so. I didn't realize that. I haven't paid attention. Okay.
All right.
Fantastic episode ahead of us.
Very good. This is the best one so far. At least for me, it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I woke my husband up at that point. I literally couldn't believe what happened because, again, I didn't know what was coming. So I literally let out a huge gasp.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it.
It was, yeah. Okay. So we start right where we left off.
Right. We start with the lieutenant asking Claire if she was there by her own choice. Mm-hmm. And of course she says, what was she going to do? She was kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place.
Yeah.
And she said, I appreciate your concern, Lieutenant, but I assure you I am a guest of the Clan Mackenzie. Yeah. And the lieutenant is like, if you say so, but I'm sure my, what'd he say?
I think he said his commander.
His commander would still wish to speak with her.
Yeah. Yeah. Because, he's not sure if she's like under duress or something. And,
right.
So, because Dougal is, a gentleman. Because if the lady goes, I go.
Now, are you thinking gentleman? Because I'm thinking at that point he doesn't want to lose his prize.
Well, he doesn't. He's got other reasons.
Right.
But.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they head over to I don't remember if they say that it's Fort William right then, but I think later they say that it is Fort William.
Was it? Because I wasn't sure. I thought it was like just an inn.
I don't know. Maybe it was just an inn. I know that later they say that they're going to have to take her and she's going to need to report back.
Right.
To Fort William. But anyway, she says in her little voiceover. For the first time since she left the stone, she found herself surrounded by her own people.
Yes.
These are not your people anymore, Claire.
Well, the other thing was that she said she was relieved to be looked upon with sympathy and respect instead of hostility and suspicion. And I'm thinking, what about them fighting for your reputation is not respect?
Yeah. Seriously.
that kind of irritated me. Not kind of, it did. It did when
Yeah.
she said that. I was like, "Are you kidding me?"
Yeah.
So,
Mm. So they get there, and you can tell the English have just kind of taken over this area, this whatever this is, a little village or
village,
something.
yeah.
Yeah. Um, and they don't seem to be so nice to the people. Like they're so rude to
Yes.
to all the local people. I got more to say about that in a little bit, but
And she finally, for the first time in the series, looked like she had actually been on the road.
hmm
Her whole look, she actually looked like she'd been on a horse.
yeah,
It's I was surprised. I was like, "Oh my god, she finally looks frumpy
yeah,
today." I was
about
like,
time.
"Oh, about time, girl."
Oh, so we meet the commander.
Oh my god.
This guy.
This is when you know what buying a commission in the army looks like.
It's exactly right. Exactly right.
He was just like taken from society, put in a red jacket and stuck right there
hmm
because he wow, that character.
He's quite a
Oh my
guy. He thinks he's smooth. Like you can tell that he thinks that he's the bee's knees, and um, which is probably something Claire would say, and not exactly something appropriate for the time
right.
period. So um, and he offers her some claret. It's his very own, bottled in 35. Need I say
Wow.
more?
Need
Like
you see
actually, yeah,
this?
you do. Because, um,
He was oh my gosh. And he was just so about himself that he kept going on with his introductions and him talking to her and right there in her face like he's
mhm,
never seen a woman before,
mhm.
that he totally doesn't even look at Dougal even though Dougal is standing right there next to her.
And okay, you gotta really think about this and think exactly what that means because in
So
this time
disrespectful.
that is really not the way things are done. I mean,
Right.
he would normally be addressing the man about what's going
Exactly.
on here. But no, he's addressing this woman, and even he's going on about how long it's been since he's seen an English rose, and
Mhm.
oh please,
And how he's willing to listen and how he loves stories. And Dougal is just sitting there almost like, eyeing him to the point of, say something to me. You're being very disrespectful. And that's what I kept saying to myself. I was like, say something to him. Say something to him. You're being so disrespectful. And Lieutenant Foster actually has to introduce him to Brigadier General Sir Oliver Lord Thomas. What a name. That's a
yeah.
good name.
Um, this is where things got really super uncomfortable.
Very, very
Where
awkward.
I mean, Dougal is introducing himself and they're asking how to address him and
Hmm.
he says and yeah, there are some Scottish words in there that are not easy to decipher, but if you're
Right.
listening, if you've got your ear tuned to it, you know what he's saying. But these guys, they don't know what he's saying
That was
and they make
hilarious.
jokes about it,
Yes.
and oh, it's so rude.
When he said, "War chief, eh? Well, I'll say this for you. You look the part." Excuse me? Really?
Did you see Dougal just bristle? Like he's
He
just
I wanted to oh my gosh, I couldn't believe that. And
uh
then the lieutenant, was it a lieutenant that had to interpret? I was like, "Wow."
yeah. And
And then
then they kind of get into it there, and Claire's like, Dougal, Lieutenant, enough.
right,
Yeah,
that
and
that
she's
lieutenant
just
was
kind of
just
running the show there, ordering them around, and the man is pretty taken aback, the commander, by her brazenness, I think, and comments about how she seems to be good at ordering men around.
Yes. Oh
And
my
Dougal's like,
gosh.
yeah, she knows how to do that.
Which I thought was funny.
Yeah, and there's kind of some glances exchanged right there, like, what does that mean exactly when he
Hmm.
says that? So,
Oh my gosh. So many things that were said at between them were so, I mean, the brigadier general, which, he's clearly very young for that rank.
mhm,
Um, but for him to say things about, what did he call him? He called him a fine specimen of the local inhabitants. Oh,
mhm,
wait, that was the lieutenant that said that. And them just saying things that I couldn't believe. Um, when him, oh, boo. Oh, when I liked when Dougal said, if you miss the way Londoners speak, perhaps you should have stayed in London.
yeah.
And the looks, the death stares between them. And
Yeah,
the brig.
and Claire chimes in with that thing about how there are certain parts of England where you can't understand what anybody's saying.
Mm-hmm.
Like Newcastle, for instance. She says. And I'm not super familiar with what that would sound like, but I know there are places there that you can't. I mean,
Yeah, I wrote on here, stare down, +1 Dougal. He had the better stare.
mhm.
But then, of course, I am biased.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, of course you are. I'm gonna start like texting you pictures of him just throughout the day. Um, so then Dougal leaves.
right,
Gonna go downstairs and have a drink. They must be at an inn. I think you're right. They're at an inn. Um, I think it's near the fort though.
right.
And when he leaves, the commander says, "How are we ever going to make peace with such an ill-mannered people?" And it's like, dude, seriously, do you not realize
Mm,
what you
He,
sound like?
well, I was thinking he's talking about, you know, ill-mannered people when in reality, he was the one that was totally
Exactly.
ill-mannered. It was, you're calling them savages and inhabitants, and really it's you. It's the
Yeah.
other way around, but you
Is
don't
it
see it that way.
to me? This whole part really, I had never realized before just how much in that the Scots people have in common with like Native Americans because
Yes.
it's this is just exactly the same way that the way they talk about them as being savages and not understanding them and them either being uneducated or just things like that.
Ill-mannered, or
Yeah.
you can't trust them, and
Uh-huh.
I was
It's
just
the
like, okay.
same thing. And you know historically there are things that happen after this that happened with them trying to just kind of destroy their culture that actually did happen over here. They weren't quite as successful there, but it seems to be a rather English way of dealing with things.
Mm.
Um, but anyway, so about this time, well, it's kind of
When
this
dinner served,
long, yeah, music's playing. They're all very civilized and they're having dinner, and
having
she's
drinks,
entertaining them with her stories.
and I'm thinking, as she's drinking, how much is she telling them? I was
Is
just
this
like,
strong claret, or has the Rhenish she's like developed a tolerance level?
I would hope so. She didn't look too loose-lipped, but at that point, I'm thinking she's still going with the story she knows.
Yeah, yeah.
So hopefully it's not too bad.
Ugh. Black Jack. Then we haven't seen him in
Oh,
a while.
I love the way he just forces himself into the room.
Hmm.
Just, I mean, he's a captain. The guy that is in the room already is a brigadier general. There's a big difference there. There's a
Hmm.
big difference of rank, but the
Oh,
way he
let's go
treats
ahead and
them.
mention in case nobody caught it last week when you sort of casually mentioned it. Ollie was a Marine.
Yes,
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 so you know about these things.
yes. It floors me because a captain is basically from where you start lieutenant, second lieutenant, or second lieutenant, lieutenant captain. So he's 3 ranks up, whereas a brigadier general is a 2-star general.
Mm-hmm.
So, and of course, you can only go to 4 stars. So for a captain to be talking to a brigadier general like that, it just totally floored me that basically the captain is putting the general in his place. I mean, I understand because Blackjack has probably seen more action on the front line, whereas the big brigadier general has probably been sitting back and doing what he's doing here in these scenes. So I get it, but to talk so disrespectfully and in the tone he's talking to him and basically, putting him in his place with little pokes,
Mm-hmm.
you just don't do. So this scene was very interesting for me. I was like, really? He's talking to him like that, really? And nobody's saying anything. But I think they all have they all know his reputation, which is why no one goes against him.
Yeah. Well, and I think that some of it, because he's been there, I think he must feel like, like when somebody who's a bigger deal than you comes in and starts telling you what to do, even though you're the one who's dealing with it on a daily basis and they really don't have a clue what's happening.
Exactly.
And I think that must be what he feels like. That
Exactly.
This is his place. He's in charge of this stuff. He doesn't have any clue what's going on. But Blackjack is putting the claret at risk. I mean, this was so funny. When Blackjack bursts into the room, the brigadier general automatically just covers his wine goblet.
It's very important.
Like, just you're threatening it with dust and all kinds of stuff. And
so go out and dust yourself off. And I love the way him going out is standing in the door frame, pounding his boots against the frame and smacking himself in the coat, and the dust is just flying literally into the room.
Yeah, he really made a show of it.
He just didn't care.
No. Well, and in between there, he's introduced to Claire, only he looks at her and it's clear that he knows who she is.
Exactly.
Even though he tries to say, I thought she looked like somebody I knew. But
maybe not.
So they're just getting him up to speed on everything that's gone on. The lady claims she was well treated by her Scottish friends, and he says he wasn't aware that the English had any Scottish friends.
Yes.
And
how they want her, what a treat it would be for the captain to maybe escort the lady to Inverness.
No. Here's the thing. You don't go anywhere with Blackjack. You don't find yourself alone with him. Nothing. He's a bad, bad man. We already know this.
Right. She already knows this.
Yeah. Okay. But then he reminds everybody, Private McGreevy didn't have any English or didn't have
Scottish friends. Right.
Oh, and don't talk about that around the lady. So then we find out about Private McGreevy, who, and Claire says she doesn't easily swoon, so you can go ahead and tell her whatever happened. Private McGreevy was found sitting propped up against a tree. She said, "Oh, well, that just sounds like
arms folded, legs crossed."
Yeah, it looks like he was just, having a rest. Nothing. No.
A prank. It sounds more like a prank, not a punishment.
Yeah.
Did you really just say that?
Yeah. Well, he's cradling his severed head, Claire.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is Game of Thrones stuff right here. This is. Oh goodness. Yeah, that's pretty bad.
That yes. And he's just staring her down.
Ugh. Did Blackjack do this? I know that he's saying that the Scottish guys
I know.
did it,
that's what I thought. Did he do it?
The further we got into this episode, I'm like, this kind of sounds more your style, dude.
And then what does she do? She brings up the 2 gentlemen that were on the crosses the day before and how it was attributed to English soldiers. And I like the way, what did they say? Well, that's English justice. And then this is where, again, she's forgetting where she is. And she starts talking about things that she shouldn't be saying. A rough justice, it would seem. And then I called him the lieutenant that was sitting by the brigadier general
Mhm.
that would interpret. I call him Lieutenant Sidekick because he didn't really have a name.
Yeah, he just
So
had something to chime in with. All
yeah, he just. So Lieutenant Sidekick says undoubtedly they were traitors, and they go into the whole thing about, well, they didn't have a trial. Well, Private McGreevy didn't have a trial, and she's saying how both sides were wrong and they should be ashamed. And I'm surprised that they're even letting her speak that much.
Yeah, well, they certainly have an issue with the things that she's saying at this point.
Yes.
Because
Yeah,
they
and
feel
then
like she's kind of revealing that she's a sympathizer.
and the more she's speaking and forgetting where she is, the more their heads are like cocking to the left, like, what are you talking about? I thought you were English.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah, and I think it maybe stands out a little bit more that the things that she's saying, the way that she's acting, is not becoming of an English gentlewoman.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas she was able to get away with it a little bit more north. I think.
Right.
I think that I don't know that it was any more accepted. I just think that right now she's in the midst of men who are used to, refined women acting a very particular way.
Well, maybe Captain Blackjack doesn't think so because he asked, is she mixing living with savages and morality or is she mixing the living with savages with morality and politics?
Mm-hmm.
Is bread and shelter all that she and Dougal shared?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's not very gentlemanly like.
Yeah, so he starts to bring in her morality into question, because the men they're not really into her talking politics, and one of them speaks up and says, this is why I never talk politics with a woman, because they get so confused. They're just so easily confused.
Exactly.
So but then Blackjack just. Oh, and by the way, his name is Jonathan, but
it's just fun. It's just a good name.
Mm-hmm. And Jonathan to me makes him sound a lot nicer than he is. So let's just stick with Blackjack. Yeah, he says, maybe she shared Dougal's bed. Maybe that's what's going on here.
Because why else? What are the reasons would she have to choose these barbarians over her own people?
And once again, I'm like, this is the same thing that happens when somebody goes and lives with the Native Americans for a little while and then comes back into, normal, like American society. I'm talking like back in the day,
Right.
Because then everybody's like, oh, well, she's tainted. They've got their ideas in her head.
Right.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's. Oh.
And then she just, well, the thing is, then she raised her voice and gave her opinion about them wanting the same freedoms that they enjoy, and cut to Blackjack. And sure enough, he has that smirk on his face, like she just totally ate the bait.
Mm-hmm.
She totally ate it. And I'm just thinking, are you dense or stupid? What is the problem with you? Do you not?
She's constantly forgetting herself and where she is and things that she's actually supposed to be talking about.
Yes, because what'd she say? It's their land and we are occupying it. And the brigadier general says in the most straight face, I believe it's the king's land. I must say, madam, I find your sympathies extraordinarily puzzling.
Yeah, she stepped in it.
Yeah, she sure did. And that's when she gets the deer in the headlights look.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oops, she had a Oprah light bulb moment. Like, uh-oh. And now how is she going to take that all back?
Well, lucky for her, there's been an attack at the fort or somewhere nearby outside the walls somewhere. Right. Man rushes in. They don't make him dust off his coat. He just comes in. But I guess human lives are more important than the claret.
Right.
1 dead, 2 wounded. I believe that's it, or maybe it's 2.
Yeah.
I don't remember. Anyway,
It's 1 dead, 2 wounded, yeah.
yeah, Claire's like, oh, I gotta go help. I have medical experience, and that is still, everybody just doesn't know what to think of that. But so she rushes downstairs. Dougal has been concerned about her because he knew that he had seen Randall go upstairs, and he's
Right.
worried. She's worried about him because he's a Scotsman in the middle of all of this, and they may just decide to act without thinking,
Right.
more of that English justice.
Yep.
He says that his men would never act without him telling them to, so he doesn't believe that this was them.
Right.
This was
this scene completely necessary?
I don't know, really. I don't know. I don't know if it was. I mean,
the scene
needed an amputation.
The scene itself was fine, but did we need the sound effects because
of sawing through bone? Yeah.
Yeah. I'm squeamish when it comes to things like that. Go figure. But so usually I don't look at the screen when things like that show up.
Yeah.
But I want to say it's like it's midnight and I'm listening to it, and I have some pretty good earphones because I'm a pretty big audiophile. And listening to that in my headphones, I was just like, oh.
Yeah, it was really bad. It was really bad. But she fixes this guy up, I'm assuming. We don't actually see what happens there, but she has to cut off his arm.
Well, so the surgeon comes and pushes her away because she's just a woman.
Okay. I think I kind of was so trying not to look at it that I didn't see that, because it made me lightheaded. I don't like that sort of.
The surgeon shows up and he's like, and she's just telling him, hold him down, and yeah, so she's holding him down when the surgeon's just, yeah, fun.
So bad. Well, then all of that's over.
Right.
She goes back upstairs. Why does she go back upstairs?
Maybe she thinks the Brigadier General is still there. Not that he's going to help her after what she just said. I don't know why she went back upstairs, because Dougal was right there. They should have just left.
Well, she made him leave, though, didn't she? Didn't she insist?
She said she wanted him to leave because what if they blamed it on him? But if he left, wouldn't that make him look more guilty?
Who knows? Who knows? There's some questionable stuff going on here, but she walks back in to witness Black Jack in the middle of getting a shave. I think he's a private or something.
He's a corporal.
Okay, corporal. Shaving Black Jack with a straight razor. Flashback time.
Flashback.
To Claire shaving Frank in front of a window.
Same razor.
I didn't catch it until like my 4th viewing, but yeah, it is that razor, because he makes a big deal about it. Like, this has been in my family too long. I don't want to take it with me. Because I guess it's when he's getting ready to go off to war.
Right. He's getting ready to go off to war, and he wants her to keep the razor because he said he had it in his family for centuries.
Mm-hmm.
And that he wanted Claire to keep the razor safe for him until he came back. So, and I was looking at it, I was like, that's the same razor. Wow. She must be staring at the thing going, oh.
Yeah, like, oh, it's so creepy.
It's so creepy.
Yeah.
And what's even more creepy is when he's talking and the corporal cuts him accidentally.
Yeah. I was so scared for that kid.
That poor kid. Oh my God. He's just like, well, he threw him. He's like, he touched it, didn't he? Like, oh, you cut me, huh? And then he throws him into the chair and he dry shaves him.
Yeah.
With a straight razor. And what did he say? I didn't get the first, because the corporal said, on my life, I didn't mean to cut you. And he said, on your life? And he said, you need to control your nerves. Your nerves do not control you, as he's dry shaving him up his neck.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, I really thought he was going to slit his throat. I honestly did. But no, he
No,
didn't.
he didn't. He'll save that for later. So,
Yeah.
um,
And he tells him to take all these things back to his lodging and see that we are not disturbed. And the poor Corporal just gathers everything and rushes out of the room. And then so Blackjack's, I'm thinking, well, that's going to look nice because you didn't finish your shave. So only half of your face is shaved.
Yeah. Well, unless maybe the other half was shaved while Claire was downstairs, cutting off someone's arm.
Yeah. Yuck.
Okay. Now, this is where this episode is pretty different from a lot of the other ones we've seen.
That it stays in the same area.
Same area, same day. It's like not very much time is passing. It's just
2 people.
Yeah.
1 room. This scene was so wow. This scene really made this whole long scene just made the entire episode for me.
Yeah, it is phenomenal. It is the episode. Everything else is just
pieced together.
Yeah. It's he wants to know her story.
Yes.
And she says she'll be as truthful as he is, and we get her story, this made up story of an affair, and she followed a man to Scotland, an English soldier.
Yes, she just
it was a stupid story.
It was a dumb story, and I mean, but the thing is that he's really digging into her story because now she's told how many different stories to him. The one when
my husband's a teacher, he's
right.
Yeah.
That story, and then probably the story that she told the Brigadier General and everyone else. So she probably had to go through that story somewhat, and then she goes through this whole other story.
But this is her real truth. This is the thing that she hasn't been telling anyone because she's so ashamed, and so she has to admit this to him.
Yeah, I love it when she's he actually in this whole long scene he actually tells her, I want to say it's like 3 times, that he actually does not believe what she's saying. And she's not getting it. She literally is not getting that he has said 3 times, I don't believe you. And it's like she keeps adding to the story to try to make it believable. And every time he sees right through her.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, why do you keep he gave you a shovel and you just keep digging?
Yeah.
Because that's really what the whole scene is that he gave you a shovel and you just keep digging.
Then he pulls out his knife. That was scary. But nothing bad happening. He's just sharpening his pencil, and then he sits down and begins drawing, which was weird. And
with his charcoal.
Yeah. Then we see the picture. He has drawn a picture of Claire, and she says, I'm sorry, you've captured my likeness. Now this is after she's had her little breakdown. She's been crying and stuff, and she's just poured out her heart to him. Like a 6th grader could draw that, by the way. That was not good. That wasn't a great
her whole acting was just, it was so bad. It really was. Her,
now you mean Claire being...
Yeah, Claire trying to tell her story of the man that the infantry officer who stole her affections. And the whole time, if you go back and you watch the scene, he the whole time is like smirking, raising his eyebrows, and he does this thing that he like kind of pouts out his upper lip like he's trying to hold back so much. I noticed that his whole upper lip, he looks like he wants to, like he's trying to, like he's going and but it's only with his upper lip. And the whole time she's talking, and he's just like, it's almost like a cop going through listening to a criminal, because he's putting his hands over his, he puts his hands over his face before he actually goes to get the charcoal and the knife out of his jacket. And he's asking her all these things, when he asked her what was the man's name that that you fell in love with. And I'm thinking to myself, you should have came up with at least a name, because what woman in her right mind
Just say John. Just say John.
Exactly. At that time period would say, "Oh, well, I do not wish to lower myself to the gentleman's level." Okay, so wait, you're not going to reveal his name and lower yourself to his level, but you lose all your reputation because of that. But you just said he ruined your reputation. But okay, she really confused me.
Yeah, she hadn't thought that through. She's not thinking. I mean, she thinks she's thinking.
She thinks she's thinking, when in reality there's no thinking going on there.
I feel like I've said this before, she's savvier in the book. And
right.
I think she makes decisions here that are not so.
Did they deviate from the book? I could have swore I saw a headline about that, about them deviating some from the book.
In this specific episode?
Yeah, in this episode. Or maybe they're going to do it in future episodes. I saw some.
It's been a while since I read it, and I don't remember. Like, I'm not one of those people who really picks up, unless it's something major, like like a dinosaur roaming through the background. No, I'm not sure I would even pick up on it. Well, he knows what's going on with the Mackenzies. He knows they're up to something.
Right. I like when he shows her the picture and she says, "Captain, my likeness," and he says, "You think so? I'm glad. I should call it Beautiful Lies." So again, he's telling you to your face, he knows you're lying. And then he just wants the information about them raising the funds about the army.
He thinks that she has that information, and she does. He's right. She has that information.
And she refuses to say anything to him. And, he says, "Don't stand there and pretend that you've lived among the Mackenzies these past months and not heard them voice support for the failure of these kings." And she just, well, then why would they discuss these treasonous things in front of an English woman?
Yeah.
And then he says, "Well, unless that English woman was sympathetic to his cause," and then "I am not that woman." And he says, "Then prove it. Have you seen any of your Scottish companions attempting to raise funds for the rebellion?" And she flat out tells him, "No, I have not." And he's like, "You haven't heard them talk about this?" And she's like, "How many times do I have to say it? That just did not happen." And he says, "I would not believe you if you told me night is dark and day is bright." He keeps telling her, "I know you're lying to me." And she just keeps going on, adding more to her story. And, you have to tell a lie to get out of the lie that you just told. And she just keeps adding to it. Yeah. I'm just like, "Girl, what are you doing?"
Well, and then he's threatening that if she doesn't just tell him that, which I don't know why if he's not going to believe her no matter what she says. He only wants her to tell him one thing. He just wants that confirmation.
Right.
Everything else just doesn't matter to him at all. But he threatens to use harsher methods if she doesn't reveal everything that she knows. And she's like, "Well, what are you going to do? You going to lay my back open to the bone like you did that poor Highlander boy?"
I loved it when she said boy. Is he really a boy?
Well,
he looks like a man to me.
I can't. He's younger than her.
Right.
He is younger than her. I think Missy and I talked about this. If I recall, he's maybe like 21 or 22, 23, something like that. And she's closer to maybe 27.
The way she makes it sound, she's like 35.
Yeah.
And he's like 20.
Well, he's young, and I mean, he's young and inexperienced, and I think that is why she calls him a boy, because he's still kind of living under his family. And
Right.
um,
I like what the captain said. He's like, that boy is a wanted thief and murderer. And she says, well, I was told he had merely stolen a loaf of bread. And then we start going to the flashback. Ugh, again with the scene.
oh, this is bad. This is
That
really bad.
that was
Let's
really
just
bad.
quickly go over it. He's already had 100 lashes.
Right.
Oh, and by the way, before this started, she was revealing far too much information.
I told you, she was telling a lie upon a lie upon a lie.
Well, no, I mean when she revealed how much she knew about Jamie's punishment.
Right. What did she
She's
say?
lucky that Dougal had been there to witness it and that she had some excuse for knowing, because otherwise he would have figured out that she's spoken to Jamie, that she knows
Right.
who Jamie is,
Right.
and then when you realize what he's got going on in his head for this kid, like he would string her up to get his hands on Jamie.
And the way he weaves the story as
he's like Jeffrey Dahmer. He's so
yes.
bad.
I mean, he said, my stomach flutters and my legs shake. And when he said that, I don't think he meant to say in a bad way.
No,
I think he meant to say it like he gets really anxious. He can't wait to do it.
He really was enjoying himself. He describes how he decided, because the thief, the murderer, Jamie, wouldn't speak. He wouldn't admit to what he had done. He was going to administer another 100 lashes himself. The corporal or somebody had done the first 100, and that wasn't effective.
Yeah. What he said, though, I wrote it down because it was so, the way and the delivery of it, because it's a voiceover. I'm thinking this man should read books, because his delivery of it was so chilling. He said, but when the boy refused to cry out, did he have to stir me to pity? If he did, he was sadly mistaken. I was hurting him. I could feel it, the sheer judder of the whip coursing up my arm, exploding into my heart. The boy would not beg for mercy. He would not beg. And I'm thinking, I would probably have begged, and you probably would have hit me harder. It was just, and then he said something changed when after he's yelling at him. He's like, look at me, you know, when they go back to the scene. And then he said, something changed. One of my men fainted like a woman, and the crowd barked in laughter. And then the whole scene goes silent. Or he screams silence, and the whole thing just, I swear, it was so chilling.
Okay, now let me go back. Before he starts it, whenever he asks Jamie if he's afraid, and he says, I'm just afraid I'll freeze to death before you're done talking. And then he pauses for a moment and he says, I will break you. Tuck that one into your hat, Ollie. Just hold on to it.
Okay.
That man is serious. And I think that what you said about the part where he wants Jamie to beg.
Yes.
And I think that reveals something about his motivation and just how deeply disturbed this man is, because he wants the power and Jamie's not giving him the power, because as long as he's not begging for mercy, as long as blood is pouring from his back. He is standing in a pool of blood. It is terrible.
Yes.
But he's just numb to it. How is he alive? How did he survive that?
I don't even know. I thought he was going to bleed to death with all the blood that they had.
And who took care of him? It makes me I'm a little bit lightheaded even thinking about it. He didn't have Claire there to fix up his back. So bad. And then
the next voiceover that he does is just as eerie.
Well, okay, so he's talking about, he says, my arm and his back. and the
Right.
connection between the two of them and how they were
Right.
creating a masterpiece together, which
Yes.
is so, ooh.
Yes, because he said the crowd was looking away and they were horrified. And then he called them blind fools because he said to think that they could see what was all they could see was the horror, and I could see the beauty. I saw the truth. The boy and I were creating a masterpiece, an exquisite, bloody masterpiece. It was the most beautiful thing I had ever seen.
Okay,
Ugh.
that's Jack Randall. Okay, and so if you had heard somebody say that,
Anyone say that?
that colors everything afterward. And so Claire is visibly upset by this.
Right.
She's crying. She knows this guy. She has seen these scars. I think it hurts her, even though I sort of wish I had known what was going through her head at that moment, because I just would.
To think that this man is a descendant of the man that you love and looks so much like him, to think that this was a man that is in your family, your husband's family lineage, that I just, to see how your husband is and to see this person, to think that
it would make you not want to have any sort of connection whatsoever. I mean, like I
can't imagine.
With the way, since he does look so much like Frank, I can't imagine being able to think of your husband who's got this same face.
Right.
It would just be so disturbing.
And that's when he kind of pulls on his you think I'm a monster, don't you? Mm-hmm. Kind of, oh, pity me kind of thing. And I think in her head, yes, and I think in her head she thinks, oh, well, soldiers have PTSD. This is probably, what'd she say? You're not the first soldier to have been changed by combat. Mm-hmm. And she's falling into his little pity party. She's believing that,
Well, and he knows what he's doing.
He knows exactly what he's doing.
Because he's trying to get her to say these things, to believe that by getting her to say these things, it's making her sort of believe them. She believes there's hope for him. That's what she says. She thinks that he can be a better person. And I think she wants to believe that because she knows that her husband is a descendant of this guy, and she wants to believe that there is some good in him.
Well, I think that whole, scene, the whole whipping of the thing, that's his quote. I called it his bad cop, good cop scene. Mm-hmm. Because here he shows his dark side, but then, hey, I want you to believe in my story and believe that I'm a good person, and you'll tell me whatever I want to hear. And he starts, well, do you believe this and do you believe that? And he's making it seem like, you can trust me. You can trust me. And she's totally falling for it. Just hook, line, and sinker.
And he says, well, starts talking about getting her to Inverness because she wants to get back to her family. And the thought of it, he says, I've made you happy. And she says, yeah. And
did she not at that moment think, this man can see right through me? Because to me, it didn't look like she smiled that much. The smile on her face was so minimal but he saw it, that it made her happy. Can you not tell he can see right through you now? So many times in that whole scene that he's seen right through her.
And this is another point where we see he's just a pure sadist. That's all he is. And he dangles this carrot in front of her. He says, I've made you happy. And she says, yes, you have. And then he pulls it right back because as he's helping her up, he gives her his hand.
Right?
Gently
he moves the chair out
like
of his
Mr.
way.
Darcy helping Elizabeth into.
Yes.
the carriage, and then punches her in the gut.
Well, she says, she's saying before he hits her, Captain Randall, you have my deepest regret.
Mhm.
Boom. I
Yep.
literally gasped so loud. I'm sure I probably woke my husband. Because it was like I said, it was around midnight when I was watching it after all the football. And I heard myself through my noise canceling earphones make the loudest sound up. And I had to cover my mouth. I couldn't, you knew what was coming. I had no idea
I didn't really,
that was
because I'm
coming.
watching it and like, okay, well, this is gonna be okay.
Right. Okay.
But
So
it wasn't okay.
she's gasping for air. And the first thing I thought of was she got the air knocked out of her, just like football players do. And she's gasping for air. And he pulls her hair and he says, I dwell in darkness, madam, and in darkness is where I belong. I need no sympathy from you, and you will get none from me. One way or the other, I will get the truth out of you. So that whole time you were telling all those stories, he saw right through you. How many times did he have to say it? I don't believe you. And she still honestly thought that he did.
She now, I think she now knows what, well,
Corporal punishment is.
I hope she understands what sort of man that he is, and that he is a master at what he's doing.
How did she even forget?
I don't know.
Knowing all his history and then hearing that story and the way he called it a masterpiece.
It's the hope. She needs to believe that she can get back. And I think, if she's being teased with that and just shown a possibility that she could get back to where she's come from.
True.
But I mean, and this is this guy's, this is his method. He gives people hope and he takes it away, and he just needs to feel this power. Oh, he's so bad. Okay. Then he brings the corporal in.
Right.
To kick her. Says, have you ever kicked a woman?
And he looks at he's like, sir?
No.
And what he says, it's very freeing. Are you saying you've done this before? Evidently you have. And he says, come on, kick her. And he barely kicks her. And he said, I said, kick her. I mean, he's almost growling at him. And he has to yell at him. And the corporal kicks her right in the ribs. And he says, you see, they're so soft.
Yeah.
Soft.
And he wants to bring somebody, he wants to bring someone in.
To his darkness.
To his dark. He wants someone to be like him.
Right.
And he's just, this is so hard to watch. And oh goodness, this is like the most intense episode so far.
It really was. It really was.
Okay. Dougal to the rescue, though.
Yay!
Thank goodness.
Dougal. Looking hot in that hat.
Is different. This is the part I believe. Now I'm remembering. I think this part is different from the book. I won't go into that, but
okay.
He does get her out, spouts off some stuff about, you can't hold her. She's giving you answers. She's a guest of Clan Mackenzie. I'm taking her with me. But then, Captain Randall says that, she'll have to be returned to Fort William by noon. Is it
sundown?
Sundown the next day.
Tomorrow. Right.
Okay. Okay. So, oh my goodness, what time of day is it?
The sun should have gone down by now, you would think.
I'm so confused about what time of day it is, because we've got a lot of ground to cover before sundown tomorrow. Okay, so they ride to the spring.
Right. And
not
of course,
side saddle. Let's point this out.
Not side saddle. That just drove me nuts. How is she not riding side saddle?
Yeah, Ollie and I had a discussion pre-show about side saddles and stuff. So But yeah, she's not riding side saddle. They ride to the spring, which Claire says is, seems a bit far to go for a drink of water.
Right. But wait.
Uh-huh.
Can I just point
Sorry,
out
did I miss something?
the continuity right here? She says when in the voiceover, just as they're getting off the horses, she says she was close to fainting when Dougal finally told her to halt.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. She
But she's
just
able
got
to walk.
yes, she just got punched in the ribs and kicked, or she just punched in the stomach and kicked in the ribs. She has no problem bending over. No, she has no problem walking upright or bending over. Could we have a little continuity? I mean, that's like somebody getting hit in the face and not having
Yeah,
anything on
because
their
she would
face.
definitely be bruised. I mean,
Was
I
she
don't know.
even beat at this point?
Hmm?
Continuity in my script, please. That's all
I
I'm
don't.
asking. Can
I don't know. Well, there's a stink to the spring,
Yes.
which makes me think that it's probably a sulfur spring.
Looked very Jurassic Park in the view. We're coming up into the water.
Never seen it. Hope to not ever see that movie.
Hey, the first one, just the first one. That's all you have to see.
So she gets a drink of the water, and in the background, we see Dougal pulling out a knife.
Oh my God, he pulls out his knife.
Um,
She's drinking it.
yeah.
And
He
she
asks
make
her, what?
she I was gonna say she makes a face and he says it'll wet your whistle sure enough.
Mm-hmm. And then he asks her if she's a spy for the English or the French. And she's like, can we? And then he tells her, I promise this is the last time I'll ever ask you. Well, all the while he's like holding this knife.
Yeah,
Like,
holding
okay,
the knife
well,
behind his
all right, what
back.
does that mean? But she doesn't see the knife yet. And then
Right.
she says, well, can we finally be done with it? Yeah, we can. And because she says, no, I am not a spy. I am plain Claire Beecham, and that's
And
it.
nothing more.
Yeah. And then she sees the knife. And
He puts it back in its sheath. And she said, "Did you plan on using that on me?" Pretty much, yeah.
yeah. He said, I wouldn't have liked it. You're a handsome woman, but if you'd proved false, I'd have had no choice. So, all right.
But I love the fact that she's like, "And you can tell the truth how?"
Uh-huh.
And
He
he's
explains that it's called Liar's Spring.
Liar
And
Spring.
if you drink from that and prove untrue, it'll burn your gizzard out. So,
Could somebody point to a gizzard on a picture? Because
isn't it in your throat?
I have
Isn't your gizzards in your throat? I don't know.
But the look on her
I have family
face.
members that eat chicken gizzards.
I mean, the look on her face, it looked kind of like it was pained and at the same time thinking, really?
Yeah, she's like a magic spring.
Right.
And
Really?
says, well, you're a healer. I would have thought you believed
in magic, right?
Also something to hold on to. Just okay.
Yeah, and then she said she didn't think Captain Randall would be so easily convinced.
Mm-hmm. Because he wouldn't, because I don't think he believes in magic.
No. And then he said, but, you'll never have to see him again if you do what I tell you. And she's like, don't you have to bring me to Fort William tomorrow?
Hey, I had a sandwich at Fort William. Just thought I'd
Did you?
Yeah, I did.
Was it delicious?
It was all right.
Maybe it was where that guy. Never mind.
Yeah, so if she does what he says, she won't ever have to see Captain Randall again.
Right. And he gives his reason.
He has all this legal stuff. She's like, you've been talking
to Ned.
Ned. Because he can only legally refuse to hand her over if she's a Scot. She's like, well, I'm not in English. Oh.
How are you going to make me into a Scot?
The whole time I'm watching this, I'm like, I'm just dying. I am dying, squealing. This was,
and of course, the only way he can do that is for her to marry one. And she just, no, absolutely not. And she starts walking away, and she's like, I can't do that.
He's like, you're going to have to. And she's like, so I'm to marry you.
And I'm thinking, yes, please. For a minute there, I was really thinking, yes, please.
Yeah.
But I wrote, la, 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 la.
Well, he assures her that, nope, sorry, not me. I must admit, the idea of grinding your corn does tickle me. But
I love that line.
I know, grinding your corn. I don't think I've ever heard that before.
But it's not himself he's nominating.
No. Then we just, and I don't think do we name it right there?
No. Then we see the twisting of the ring and the reading of the contract.
She's got Claire is sitting in the grass, reading a contract of marriage.
Mm-hmm.
They've given her some time to think about it. Apparently, she's
down by the river.
I looked. There was no river right here. It was.
Oh, that's right.
There was no river.
She's just in the middle of the meadow.
Just sitting.
Where are the sheep?
And then Jamie shows up with a bottle because he's a smart man. Oh, he has two cups. Of course, or a little something, whatever it is. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know what that was either.
She gladly takes it, and I think she asks him, you know, are you okay with this?
Yeah, and she's like, are you willing?
And he says, well, you've mended my wounds more than once. I figure I owe you something for that.
Yeah.
It's no big deal.
And plus, she's such a good friend, he couldn't just leave her to that bastard Randall.
Yeah. Well, and because, he knows firsthand.
Right.
What this guy is capable of. And she says, surely there's someone else you're interested in. And he says, well, he's not promised to anybody, and he's not much of a prospect because he's got the price on his head. And
right. Yeah, it wasn't really until then that I realized that he's like not the best marriage candidate.
He's really not. He could be killed really at any point. Really, there's a lot of people who would turn him over for money.
Yeah. And she's like, so that's it then? So as far as you're concerned, start the honeymoon tomorrow? And he's just like, yeah. Shaking your head. Whatever suits you. Yeah, I'm good. And can I say, in that scene, maybe it was just me, but they had no chemistry. You know what I'm saying?
But Ollie, just
and I understand why. I understand, but you would have thought that him being flirty with her in the previous episodes, there would have been a little bit of more smittenness on his side. But there was one part where is it that I wrote? When she said, surely a young man like yourself isn't there someone else you're interested in? And, she makes it seem like it's such a sacrifice right there. Mm-hmm. But when we get over to where, so after she's walking away, well, you say that whole part.
Oh, we've got an important part right here.
Yeah, that whole important part. You say that whole important part.
Okay. And I understand why she brings it up because, it was kind of a big deal even in 1940s something.
Right.
Probably.
Yeah.
And she thinks that it may be a major concern for him. But honestly, at the time, there were so many widowed women that ended up having to marry other men. I don't think it probably was. She says, well, doesn't it bother you that I'm not a virgin? And he's like, well, actually, this is exactly what he says. Well, no.
Exactly.
He just says it like that. And then he says, so long as it doesn't bother you that I am, I reckon one of us should ken what they're doing. Okay. And she's like,
if you go back and watch the scene, she looked him up and down like she just won the lottery.
I know. It's like she
was it just me? That moment, it was like a spark lit in her eye. Like she just won the lottery. And then after he said that, all of a sudden she got really shy when he said that one of them should know what they're doing. She actually kind of
watch her breathing.
She probably
is like.
She kind of. If I felt like if I had a closer picture of her, she looked like she was blushing because then she turned away from him.
Yeah.
And it was so funny. He finished he's drinking as he leaves her. She's finishing her drink. Everyone's drinking.
Well, he goes to join the other men. And I get the feeling that she sat there for just a moment. She had to compose
Yeah.
herself.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Because girl just won the lottery.
Oh my goodness. And then she goes back over to join them, doesn't really join them, just continues walking and
Yeah,
grabs the bottle on her way
and
through.
keeps going.
And that's it.
Where's the straw?
Ollie.
I'm serious.
Ollie.
She just won the lottery.
The end of this episode.
Where's the preview? I'm still
Oh,
stuck on that.
have you not seen it?
No, I saw it.
Did you watch it frame by frame like me?
I did not watch it frame by frame. I saw one part. Well, I know which part. I saw that good stuff that you liked. But of course my thinking is not your thinking.
What?
So,
What is I don't know what you think I'm thinking.
well, I'm thinking that you think it's all lovey-dovey and sweet and everything.
It's not lovey-dovey and sweet. It's totally uncomfortable, and I don't know how like somebody goes from like that to that. And
Yes,
yeah,
I don't
and I
see
felt that way when I was.
the way they make it seem is like it's love, and I'm
It's
thinking,
not love.
is
They're
it
getting
really
something
love?
done
It
because
just,
they have to.
and I'm thinking, because it really looks like, because I'm thinking, I know he has feelings for her already. That's been pretty evident, but I don't know how they go from the way they're looking at each other. They make it seem like it's kind of a passiony kind of thing. Because
I
I'm
think that
thinking,
they'll make it a lot more uncomfortable. I think that we just got a few little snapshots of because he's trying to kiss her. And okay, we're talking about the preview here. This is a preview for the next episode, which is called The Wedding, and I'm so excited.
I'm wondering if Graham McTavish can be my virtual husband. Do you
You
think
already
he
have
will?
that one. You already have
I
that one.
I have a virtual harem, but he would be the only one in my harem that would not be Asian.
I know.
So I wonder. I'm gonna Twitter at him and see if he'll be in my virtual harem.
He might be into it. I don't know. Okay, so in the preview, Jamie is trying to kiss Claire. Oh, and by the way, did you notice that he shaved?
I did notice that.
He shaved for the wedding.
Hey.
Yeah.
He's got to clean up. He's got to clean up.
I've seen a few of the little like preview scenes for this episode, and they're pretty good. And there's a lot of funny things. Pay specific attention to Murtaugh. I'll just say that. He's got interesting marriage advice.
Oh goodness.
For Jamie. Tell you that off air, and then we can address it again at a later point. Okay, he's trying to kiss her.
Yes. And then she starts talking
where you get like that it's uncomfortable. She's like, "Tell me about your family," because that's what you do when a guy's trying to kiss you. It's like start talking about his mom or something.
Mom, apple pie Chevrolet. Mom, apple pie Chevrolet.
Oh, so I'm really looking forward to this. It's like uncomfortable and wonderful, and even if you should probably just go read that chapter.
Okay, I will. Oh wait, but what if I'm disappointed?
Well, I don't know what you want to get out of it. I don't know. It's good. I mean, it's uncomfortable.
Is it?
Well, yeah, because
I don't know, when the whole look of she won the lottery kind of throws me off. Like, oh, this is gonna be good. Look, a whole cookie to myself.
I knew I was making the right decision asking you to talk to me. All right, so looking forward to next week, and you get a week off.
Yay.
Marissa, a friend of mine, a local blogger, she writes for the Lost Ogle.
Oh, I like the Lost Ogle.
Yeah. Well, Marissa is a big fan of the books and the show, and she's going to be talking to me next week about the wedding.
How fun.
Yeah, this is going to be great. But then maybe you can come back and talk to me about the final episode.
Oh, the final episode. I'm excited. I can't believe there's only 2 more. What are they trying to Sherlock me?
They are Sherlocking you. Only you've
Aren't
gotten
they?
like 5 more than you would get for Sherlock.
I know, but still, whatever happened to like 13 or
Well,
15 episodes in a
now hold
season?
on.
They are totally Sherlocking me.
You're gonna get 8 more at the beginning of, or after the year, like the new year starts.
Okay,
They're coming back with 8 more. So I think it's gonna be 16.
But then how
episodes
long
per
am I
season.
going to have to wait? 2 years before I get 7
I
more?
hope not. Oh, I hope not. I'll die.
It better not Sherlock me. I'm going to be really mad.
Well, around that time, Game of Thrones will be coming back.
I haven't even watched one.
Oh,
I'm still reading the book. I'm like 3/4 of the way through the second book. So.
And we have book club next week.
Book club!
Yay!
Book club! Yay!
All right. This has been fun.
It has been fun. It's always fun.
I'm like, I've had I've just been like, I've had such a good time. I've been crying. Ollie, how am I going to make it through this episode?
I don't know. But I will be on Twitter, therefore I can.
Yeah, you're going to be watching me.
I'll be watching football because that's what I do. You watch the episode and I watch your Twitter feed. Mm-hmm. And I'm usually watching football at the time that you're watching the episode, and then I watch it after I'm done watching the last bit of Sports Center, so like midnight. And then I watch the episode. So then I look at your tweets while I'm watching it, and I totally understand what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I love that. It's funny to look at your tweets. I have no idea what you're talking about.
Oh, all right. Okay. I guess we'll call it good now. I think we'll be done.
Okay.
Because otherwise, I'm just going to keep gushing over nonsense. So, follow us on Twitter, PS Petticoats. You can follow me on Twitter, Elizabeth Mell. That's Elizabeth Melle. And now, can I give out your name?
Yes.
If I can remember it.
Can you
Ollie's
pronounce
on Twitter
it?
now. Go ahead and say it.
It's Librada Ollie, and my Twitter is @FunFriendsFood, because that's what life's all about: fun, friends, and food. So.
And your profile picture is you and not an
me.
Asian man.
My Asian virtual husband is my background, Kim Nam Gil.
See that yet.
I love him. Mind you, he's 10 plus years younger than me, and he only speaks Korean, but it's okay because I love him.
That's all right. Okay, and like us on Facebook, all that business.
Yeah.
I'm sure
you'll link it all down in the bottom.
I do.
That way people can just click it and go. Like it, share it, love it.
All right. We will see you next week.
Okay, not me. See you in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
But have fun I'll be listening.
I know. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. My love, we will go, I and you. And away in the woods, we will scatter the dew. And the salmon behold, and the ouzel too. My love, we will hear, I and you, we will hear the calling afar of the doe and the deer. And the birds in the branches will cry for us clear. And the cuckoo unseen in his festival mood. And death, oh my fair one, will never come near. In the bosom afar of the fragrant wood. In the bosom afar of the fragrant wood.